Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the kitchen table. It's Alison here, the team vicar in Melksham Team Ministry. It's really good to gather together again today. I hope things have been going okay for you. I was pondering what I might be talking about today. As always, it's often the things that happen around me that help to inspire me for the things that I talk about at the kitchen table. And this morning is no exception. I had a Zoom meeting this morning with pioneer ministers from all around the diocese. What's a pioneer minister, you might be saying? Pioneer ministry is something that happens beyond the walls of church. It's about people who are out there living in community, working with people who are perhaps on the edge of understanding faith or seeking faith, or maybe with no interest in faith whatsoever. But pioneer ministry is about being there, being present, living the Gospels and sharing the Word of God in ways of service or word, whatever it needs to be. So we were having a gathering of pioneer ministers, thinking about lockdown, about the return to life and work and what that might look like. And Stephen, who was leading the session, he's a very gifted young man who suggested that we went outside and spent 10 minutes in our gardens before we reconvened to talk about the things that were on our hearts. And in that 10 minutes we were invited to look at the beauty of the garden, to perhaps listen to some birdsong, and in that quiet time to maybe listen for the Word of God, so that we might be able to bring what was on our hearts to the meeting. Sounded like a lovely idea. So we all pressed mute on our machines, on our computers in front of us. We closed down the video. We got up and we went outside into our 14 different places to encounter God's presence. I went out of the kitchen door into my back garden and I encountered, well, to be honest, quite a lot of smoke and quite a lot of noise, because Derek was actually creating something in the vicarage forge. He knew I was working this morning and he went out to work in the garage. And in his forge he was busy heating up metal, banging it into shape. And there was some of the smoke and the smell of the forge drifting into the garden. I laughed. I thought it was actually God saying quite clearly to me, well, you know, this is still a busy world. People are still out there doing the things they need to do. And sometimes it's noisy and sometimes it's messy and always it's blessed. So I came back in and carried on with my meeting, and we had a really worthwhile couple of hours working together in small rooms and large groups. And it really did make me think about where we are. We're starting to make plans for meeting again in church buildings. Some churches are already back. Ours will be gathering in St Michael's from the Anglican team. From about the 30th of August we're working towards. And from that date we will gather again. But it won't look as it looked before. We will be asked to wear face masks. We won't be able to sing. And we'll receive communion in host only. The service will be short, and there won't be coffee, there won't be hugging, and there won't be the same closeness as we're used to. It will be different, but it will be a place of gathering and worshipping. And that made me think about what it is to gather and to worship in the world as we have it. The rules and regulations that apply to us now. And as I was thinking about that, I was thinking there have been times throughout history, many times throughout history, where gathering together to worship has been difficult. In some instances, if you were in the Roman Empire and you were gathering as a Christian, you were risking your life. More recently, in countries such as Myanmar, Burma, if you will, to worship and to be a preacher or a priest was to risk your life. There are many places in the world where there is not the freedom to worship as we would like to worship. So when we're here and we're thinking about how we gather and what we do, and when I'm getting grumpy thinking, how can I put together a worship in a short space of time that reflects our love for God, the holiness of that meeting, the encounter with our divine Lord. And how do you do all that within the time constraints, with face masks on, with everybody trying to find a new way of being? And I thought to myself, actually, do you know, it's not that tough. Many people for generations have had it tougher. For many of you, the greatest sadness when we gather together will be not able to sing. And I know that feeling. There is something about singing and rejoicing that is just our very expression of our faith. And to be denied that is to feel as though we are being really constrained. But if we think about that in terms of how we are protecting each other rather than being denied something that we feel is our right or our own expression of faith, if you like. But if we think about it in terms of our brothers and sisters that will be sat around us in the building, then I think it makes it more doable. Because in everything that Jesus did, he was teaching us to care for our brothers and our sisters. And I don't know about you, but I think if we are singing in our hearts, we are singing in a way that God will hear us. And for those of us who would love to be able to lift our voices and sing in praise, if that's how we praise, then I want us to think about what it is to praise differently, to praise that singing from within, if you like, to make your song of love to God be a silent song, an internal engagement with a God who loves you. I don't know how it will feel when we gather again in church. And if you're listening and you've never been one to gather in church and you're thinking you might come along, then do please come. But know that it's a bit different than you would normally be having church. And we know that that might go on for quite some time. So for those of you who come regularly, and for those of you who may never have been, even if it feels like it will be different, I've had many conversations with people. Some of them have said, oh, well, if I can't sing, I'm not coming. Or if I can't have the cup, what's the point? Actually, the point is to gather together, to worship God in new and different ways, and to be in relationship with one another, even if it's at a distance, but to offer each other that love, that fellowship, and that companionship that says, brothers and sisters, we are together. Some of you may choose to stay home for very good reasons, to keep yourself safe if you're vulnerable. But I do say, when we get together in church, if you can, come with an open heart and an open mind, and a song singing loudly inside your hearts for the passion of our faith, for the joy of our God who loves us, and to know the peace of Jesus who walks with us every day. Sharing the peace too is different in times of COVID. So, peace be with you always. Bye for now. See you tomorrow. God bless.